If you eat a vegan diet, getting enough vitamin D each day can be challenging. Many of the foods highest in vitamin D, such as salmon, egg yolks, and shellfish, aren't vegan-friendly. Taking in sufficient amounts of vitamin D can be difficult, even for people who aren't vegan. One study found that 41.6% of Americans may be deficient in vitamin D. In this video, we'll look at the best sources of vitamin D for vegans, the effectiveness of supplements, and how you can optimize your intake of this important vitamin. This video is sponsored by a vegan cookbook that I suggest you buy to make delicious meals during your vegetarian diet so you do not get tired of this diet. I put the link to get acquainted with Vegan Cookbook in the description of this video. Hi there. Why do you need vitamin D? Vitamin D's primary role is to help your body absorb calcium and phosphorus from food. Both these minerals are essential for maintaining healthy bones. People who don't get adequate amounts of vitamin D are at a heightened risk of developing weak and brittle bones. Your immune system also needs vitamin D to work well. Research from 2011 shows that vitamin D deficiency is linked to increased autoimmune issues and a higher risk of developing infections. According to a 2013 review of studies, people who have low levels of vitamin D may also be at a greater risk of depression than people with healthy levels of the vitamin. There's some evidence to suggest that vitamin D may play a role with cancer prevention, but research isn't conclusive at this time. There's also evidence to suggest that vitamin D may reduce the risk of heart disease, but more research is needed. Vegan sources of vitamin D. Vitamin D is unique compared to other vitamins. Even though you can get it from various food sources, your body can also make it. When you expose your skin to sunlight, your body has the ability to convert cholesterol into vitamin D, which also acts as a hormone. Many of the foods highest in vitamin D come from animals. However, there are good sources of this vitamin that are vegan-friendly. You may see vitamin D content listed in micrograms or international units. A microgram of vitamin D is equivalent to 40 international units. Here are some of the best vegan sources of vitamin D. Fortified soy milk. 1 cup of soy milk fortified with vitamin D contains about 2.9 micrograms of vitamin D. It's important to check the label before buying a brand of soy milk to see if vitamin D is included. Brands that aren't fortified contain very little vitamin D. Mushrooms. Mushrooms are one of the only plant sources that contain a significant amount of vitamin D. Mushrooms grown in the dark may not contain a significant amount of vitamin D. However, mushrooms exposed to ultraviolet light when growing may contain about 450 IU per 100 gram serving. Mushrooms contain vitamin D2, while animal products contain vitamin D3. Research has found that vitamin D2 might not be as bioavailable as vitamin D3 but can still raise vitamin D levels. Fortified cereals. Many breakfast cereals and brands of oatmeal are fortified with vitamin D. Cereals fortified with vitamin D will usually list the vitamin in the nutritional information. The amount of vitamin D found in fortified cereals can vary between brands. Most typically contain between 0.2 to 2.5 micrograms per serving. Fortified orange juice. Not all orange juices are fortified with vitamin D. However, brands that are fortified may contain up to 2.5 micrograms per serving. Juices that are fortified with vitamin D will typically mention this on the packaging. Fortified almond milk. Fortified almond milk contains about 2.4 micrograms of vitamin D per serving. Many brands of almond milk are also fortified with calcium. Fortified rice milk. Rice milk fortified with vitamin D contains about 2.4 micrograms per serving. Some brands of rice milk may also be fortified with other nutrients such as vitamin A and vitamin B12. Sunshine. Although sunshine isn't a food, it's a great source of vitamin D for vegans. Stepping out into the sun for about 10 to 30 minutes 3 times a week is enough for most people. However, people with darker skin may need more sun exposure than people with light skin to reap the same benefits. Try to limit your sun exposure, as too much time spent in the sun can damage your skin, cause sunburn, and increase your risk of skin cancer. What about supplements? Vitamin D supplements are another option to boost your intake of this vitamin if you eat a vegan diet. Not all vitamin D supplements are vegan-friendly, so be sure to research a brand before buying a supplement. To enhance absorption, it's recommended that you take vitamin D supplements with a meal. Foods that are high in fats, like avocados, nuts, and seeds, are particularly helpful with increasing the absorption of vitamin D into your bloodstream. According to one study, people who took vitamin D3 supplements with a high-fat meal had 32% higher vitamin D blood levels after 12 hours compared with people who ate a fat-free meal. Here are a few brands that offer vegan-friendly vitamin D supplements. Doctor's Best Vegan D3, Country Life Vegan D3, MRM Vegan Vitamin D3. How much vitamin D do you need? The amount of vitamin D you need each day depends on your age. According to the National Institutes of Health, an average daily intake of 400 to 800 IU, or 10 to 20 micrograms, is sufficient for more than 97% of people. Here's the recommended daily intake of vitamin D based on age. Babies, 0 to 12 months 400 IU. Children, 1 to 13 600 IU. Teenagers, 600 IU. Adults 70 and under, 600 IU. Adults over 70, 800 IU. The upper safe limit of dietary vitamin D for people ages 9 and above is 4,000 IU per day. Taking too much can cause the following symptoms: loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, constipation, weakness, weight loss. Getting too much vitamin D can also raise calcium levels in your blood. Excess calcium can cause an irregular heartbeat and disorientation. What are the symptoms of vitamin D deficiency? Vitamin D deficiency can cause several health problems. You're at a greater risk of developing a deficiency if you don't get regular sun exposure. African American and Hispanic populations are at the highest risk of developing vitamin D deficiencies. Some symptoms of low vitamin D include the following: weakened immune system, weak bones, depression, fatigue, slow wound healing, hair loss. If you eat a vegan diet, getting enough vitamin D can be challenging, but there are ways to increase your intake that don't involve animal sources. Cereals and milk replacements fortified with vitamin D are two of the best sources of dietary vitamin D for vegans. Taking a daily vitamin D supplement can also help you boost your levels. Exposing your skin to sunlight can also increase your body's natural vitamin D production. For most people, 10 to 30 minutes 3 times a week is sufficient. 7 nutritious foods that are high in vitamin D. Interest in vitamin D and its role in our overall health journey is growing. We know that vitamin D affects many bodily functions, including bone health. Research also suggests that low vitamin D levels may be a risk factor for autoimmune diseases. Many people don't get enough vitamin D. It's hard to know how many people are deficient because experts are still debating about what target levels should be. Research suggests that about 24% of people in the United States are vitamin D deficient. Other areas of the world may have higher rates of deficiency. It's estimated that in Europe, about 40% of the population has vitamin D deficiency. Our bodies produce vitamin D when exposed to sunlight. There are a few reasons why it's hard to get enough vitamin D this way. To reduce the risk of skin cancer, it's smart to cover up, wear sunscreen, and avoid being outside during peak sun hours. And depending on where you live in the world, it may just not be possible to have enough year-round sun exposure. That's why getting vitamin D from food or supplements is best. Daily recommended dose of vitamin D. The daily value for vitamin D is 800 IU. The vitamin D content is listed as a percentage of the DV on the nutrition facts label on food packages. This tells you what amount of your daily vitamin D requirement the food will provide. It's best to get vitamin D from food or supplements. Whether you need a vitamin D supplement in addition to food and sun exposure is a question to ask your doctor. They can also help you find out if you are deficient. Here are 7 healthy foods that are high in vitamin D. 1. Salmon. Salmon is a popular fatty fish and a great source of vitamin D. According to the United States Department of Agriculture Food Composition Database, one 3.5-ounce serving of farmed Atlantic salmon contains 526 IU of vitamin D, or 66% of the DV. Whether the salmon is wild or farmed can make a big difference in the vitamin D content. On average, wild-caught salmon has more vitamin D. The amount of vitamin D will vary depending on where the salmon is caught and the time of year. One study showed that the vitamin D content of salmon caught in the Baltic Sea ranged from 556 to 924 IU of vitamin D per one 3.5-ounce serving, providing 70 to 111% of the DV. Wild salmon typically contains more vitamin D than farmed salmon, but both are good sources of vitamin D. In a 3.5-ounce serving, farmed salmon contains around 66% of the DV and wild salmon can contain up to 160% of the DV. 2. Herring and sardines. Herring is a fish eaten around the world. It is often smoked or pickled. This small fish is also a great source of vitamin D. Fresh Atlantic herring provides 214 IU per 3.5-ounce serving, which is 27% of the DV. If fresh fish isn't your thing, pickled herring is also a good source of vitamin D, providing 113 IU per 3.5-ounce serving, or 14% of the DV. Pickled herring also contains a high amount of sodium, at 870 mg per serving. It may not be a great option if you are trying to lower your salt intake. Canned sardines are a good source of vitamin D as well. A 3.5-ounce serving provides 193 IU or 24% of the DV. Other types of fatty fish are also good vitamin D sources. Halibut and mackerel provide 190 IU and 643 IU per 3.5-ounce serving, respectively. Herring contains 214 IU of vitamin D per 3.5-ounce serving. Pickled herring, sardines, and other fatty fish, such as halibut and mackerel, are also good sources. 3. Cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is a popular supplement. If you don't like fish, taking cod liver oil is another way to get nutrients that are hard to get otherwise. It's an excellent source of vitamin D. At about 450 IU per teaspoon, it clocks in at a massive 56% of the DV. It has been used for many years to treat vitamin D deficiency. It also has a history of being used as part of treating rickets, psoriasis, and tuberculosis. Cod liver oil is also very high in vitamin A, with 150% of the DV in just a single teaspoon. Vitamin A can be toxic in high amounts. The safe upper limit for vitamin A is 3,000 micrograms. A single teaspoon of cod liver oil contains 1,350 micrograms of vitamin A. Make sure that you aren't exceeding the upper limit with cod liver oil or any other vitamin A supplements. In addition, cod liver oil is high in omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3s may play a role in heart health and may reduce inflammation in the body. Along with fatty fish, cod liver oil is another source of these fatty acids. If you don't eat fish, it can be hard to get enough omega-3 in your diet. Cod liver oil contains 450 IU of vitamin D per teaspoon, or 56% of the DV. It is also high in other nutrients, such as vitamin A and omega-3 fatty acids. 4. Canned tuna. Many people enjoy canned tuna because of its flavor and easy storage methods. It is typically cheaper than buying fresh fish. Canned light tuna packs up to 269 IU of vitamin D in a 3.5-ounce serving, which is 34% of the DV. Mercury is a heavy metal found in many types of fish. Bigger types of fish contain more mercury than smaller ones. The amount of mercury in canned tuna depends on the type of tuna. Light canned tuna comes from smaller fish and is lower in mercury. White canned tuna is higher in mercury. Over time, methylmercury can build up in your body. In some cases, it can lead to serious health concern. The Environmental Defense Fund recommends only a single 3.5-ounce serving of light tuna per week. If you're concerned about mercury consumption, talk with your doctor about the appropriate amount of tuna to eat per week for you. Canned tuna contains 269 IU of vitamin D per serving. Choose light tuna and eat no more than 1 serving per week to prevent methylmercury buildup. 5. Egg yolks. Fish are not the only source of vitamin D. Whole eggs are another good source, as well as a wonderfully nutritious food. Most of the protein in an egg is found in the white, and the fat, vitamins, and minerals are found mostly in the yolk. The yolk from one large egg contains 37 IU of vitamin D, or 5% of the DV. A few factors affect the vitamin D level of egg yolks. Sun exposure for the chicken, the vitamin D content of the chicken feed, and exposing liquid yolk to UV light will increase vitamin D in the egg. When given the same feed, pasture-raised chickens that roam outside in the sunlight produce eggs with levels 3 to 4 times higher. Additionally, eggs from chickens given vitamin D-enriched feed may have up to 34,815 IU of vitamin D per 100 grams of yolk. So if one yolk is about 17 grams, that means you'll get around 2.5 times the DV of vitamin D in a single egg. Choosing eggs either from chickens raised outside or marketed as high in vitamin D can be a great way to meet your daily requirements. Eggs from commercially raised hens contain about 37 IU of vitamin D per yolk. However, eggs from hens raised outside or fed vitamin D-enriched feed contain much higher levels. 6. Mushrooms. Other than fortified foods, mushrooms are the only sufficient non-animal source of vitamin D. Like humans, mushrooms can synthesize vitamin D when exposed to UV light. However, mushrooms produce vitamin D2, whereas animals produce vitamin D3. Though vitamin D2 helps raise blood levels of vitamin D, it may not be as effective as vitamin D3. Some wild mushrooms are excellent sources of vitamin D2 because of their exposure to UV light. Morels are a type of mushroom that grows in the wild. 1 cup of these mushrooms contains 136 IU of vitamin D, which is 17% of the DV. Many commercially grown mushrooms are grown in the dark and contain very little D2. Some mushrooms are being treated with ultraviolet light to boost their vitamin D content. 1 cup of cremini mushrooms exposed to UV light contains 1,110 IU of vitamin D, which is 139% of the DV. Mushrooms can synthesize vitamin D2 when exposed to UV light. Only wild mushrooms or mushrooms treated with UV light are good sources of vitamin D. 7. Vitamin D fortified foods. Natural sources of vitamin D are limited, especially if you're vegetarian or don't like fish. Fortunately, some food products that don't naturally contain vitamin D are fortified with this nutrient. 1. Cow's milk. Cow's milk is a naturally good source of many nutrients, including calcium, phosphorus, and riboflavin. In several countries, cow's milk is fortified with vitamin D. In the United States, 1 cup of fortified cow's milk contains 115 IU of vitamin D per cup, or about 15% of the DV. 2. Soy milk. Since vitamin D is found almost exclusively in animal products, vegetarians and vegans may find it trickier to get enough. For this reason, plant-based milk substitutes such as soy milk are often fortified with vitamin D, along with other nutrients usually found in cow's milk. The amount can vary depending on the brand. 1 cup contains around 100 to 119 IU of vitamin D, or 13 to 15% of the DV. 3. Orange juice. Around 65% of people worldwide are lactose intolerant, and around 2% have a milk allergy. For this reason, some companies fortify orange juice with vitamin D and other nutrients, such as calcium. 1 cup of fortified orange juice with breakfast can start your day off with up to 100 IU of vitamin D, or 12% of the DV. However, orange juice isn't a great option for everyone. For people prone to acid reflux, it can worsen symptoms. If you live with diabetes, you may notice that juice causes a spike in your blood sugar level. That said, it's a great option if you're trying to treat a low blood sugar level. For cereal and oatmeal. Cereals are another food that may be fortified with vitamin D. 1 cup of fortified wheat bran flakes contains 145 IU of vitamin D, equal to 18% of the DV. 1 cup of fortified crisp rice cereal has 85 IU of vitamin D, or 11% of the DV. Remember that not all cereals will contain vitamin D. It's smart to check the nutrition label to find out how much vitamin D is in the product. Please, if you like this video, like it and share it with your friends so that this video can be seen by more people and you can help people like you who need this video. And also support us. And please ask in the comments your biggest problems about vegan diet so that we can produce videos about them.